Hello, everyone. This is Bruno. I'm an AE here at OnSign, and today we have a very special guest, Frank Pisano from Bluefin. And well, the idea here is to talk a little bit of retail media and some other topics. We have here Ricardo as well, co-founder of OnSign and responsible for marketing and sales. And yeah, glad to be here talking to you on OnSign Talks. So, Frank,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thanks for having me. It's I know we just chatted a few weeks ago, and you brought up the idea, and I'd love to chat, tell you guys a little bit more about Bluefin and our journey, and how we work together with a really important partner ecosystem.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Frank, I was talking, with Bruno before, and you have a long history. So I was even thinking maybe, of course, we're going to talk a lot about Bluefin, but so tell us your journey, how you got into Bluefin, and then we can kick off Bluefin.
I mean, the fact that the camera zoomed in and you can see my gray hair, it's been quite the journey. I do love it. I've loved the digital signage market for quite some time. A few years ago, I was with Chief Mounts through Milestone, which is now Legrand, and we started up a different division that would focus more on getting ahead of projects in digital signage. Because as you know, some of these projects have a long tail on them. It takes a while for some digital signage projects to close. So as a mount company, we were always chosen last. The displays were chosen, the operating systems, the CMS were chosen, and if they needed a little bit of a tweak or something, it was always too late for a mount company to react fast because we were chosen so late. So our job was really to get ahead of a lot of projects and just understand what the market was looking for well ahead of the time that the project was near completion. So we formed a different group. It was a technology solutions group. Legrand continues with a great group of people that are continuing to do that. But it got me closer to a lot of the digital signage ecosystem that we know today, including BrightSign, which is obviously as a one of the leaders in digital signage media players. It got me close to that group, close enough that I eventually went to start working for them, and it got a really good relationship with their executive team there and their founder, and went over and ran sales for them for a little over 5 years. That's where a lot of history with Bluefin and BrightSign started. Really, in the early days of me at BrightSign, Bluefin was our go-to de facto, all-in-one solution where we got to operate on just a chipset that would be embedded into a display. And Bluefin's expanded a lot, BrightSign's expanded a lot since then, and that's where I am today. But Bluefin's it was a great opportunity to come and run more than just the sales and marketing aspects of things, running the whole show. And most days, that's a great thing.
Well, I think that having this start really close to BrightSign, it's a great endorsement because BrightSign is, for me, it's quality, it's reliability, and I think this kind of for sure translated what you guys have been doing. I don't know if you would like to talk anything about this connection reliability or how this translates.
Yeah, I think a lot of it relies on the quality components that we use, because it's always the path of the lowest common denominator is what's going to cause a quality issue. And one of the reasons that Bluefin works so well with BrightSign is that's a purpose-built hardware. They're known for reliability. Their products are rock solid, and putting a purpose-built media player into a display definitely is that one part that we can control all the other aspects of the supply chain at Bluefin. That's a proprietary operating system we're putting in. So we wanted to make sure that chipset and anything that we provide in product is going to be super rock solid. So that's how we've really built the organization. I mean, we're our own manufacturer. At our core, we're a contract manufacturer at Bluefin. We can make a variety of different things, but we always make sure that it's quality components that we put into the display. And because these displays last a long time, we want to have headroom. No end user likes to rip and replace hardware. So we want to make sure that when we're providing that solution, that we have the integrated operating system we put in there is going to last for a long time. The screen quality allows that that end customer to get a lot of return on investment.
And one thing I was thinking about, we are talking about BrightSign, about Bluefin, and we know that very well. But eventually, I bet everybody knows, most of what you're talking. But I think it would be nice to kind of describe, and especially because, in my opinion, Bluefin has been expanding so much. I mean, you guys had some specific displays, and today you have a whole range. So maybe that is interesting news to bring to people.
Well, I always say that our greatest strength is our ability to build anything, but it also could be looked at as a weakness too, because we really, it makes it a little bit confusing when you go into maybe an AV integrator that doesn't know a lot about us, and we're like, well, we could build pretty much anything from a display that you want. But one of the things that the built-in OS is, we became, especially after I got over to Bluefin a little over 2.5 years ago now, we became very dedicated to that partner ecosystem. That CMS partner, like our relationship has formed into, is super vital to us, because it really allows us to expand into a lot of different other vertical markets. It allows us to expand into other operating systems that sometimes maybe a CMS isn't fully functional or operational on one specific operating system, but they do well on many others. And the ability to put in those other operating systems allows those CMS partners to be what I like to call Swiss Army knives, right? They have all of their features. They don't have to dumb down their software to work on a specific, if we force fed them on an operating system. So one of the things, I think it goes along with our custom messaging, it goes along with our custom integration. And we found great success in some of the other operating systems that we offer because of that partner ecosystem working really well on some of those other platforms.
Perfect.
Cool. Bruno, I don't know. I want to give you the chance to ask.
Yeah.
I'm going to be speaking.
No, I just wanted to make sure the audience knows what operating systems are you offering Bluefin products right now, Frank?
So obviously we talked a lot about BrightSign, and that still happens to be at one of our cores, because we do provide a lot of different BrightSign chipsets now. We just expanded into their XD6, which is what we call our XS156. We also have operated on their HS125 5 series and their 145, which is more equivalent to their 2 LS models. So we have been doing a higher end chipset from BrightSign for quite some time. We were putting more of a sister board connection with their XT1144. So this is nothing new, going to a very high end BrightSign player. But since then, we've actually expanded a lot into some different OSs. We launched our Intel Ocean series a few years ago. That's a great chipset, has a lot of headroom, a lot of power. And we do a lot of Linux on that, obviously Windows, and also our Chrome OS relationship. And then as most built-in suppliers, you have some Android options as well, especially in some retail. Maybe retail verticals are looking for they're very cost conscious, and maybe their whole software stack has always been built on an Android, and maybe they're still trying to port over. Maybe they're porting over to BrightSign, and they're just in a phase right now where they're going to get there, but maybe they need to get started with Bluefin and a built-in. So we, in some cases, they start with an Android platform.
This is a question maybe we don't know. I mean, is there a pricing difference when you choose? I mean, a significant pricing difference when you choose a different OS, or
what's funny is this came up today with somebody where the way we do our pricing is almost it's a bill of materials, right? We can put in a higher nit display, we can put in a lower nit display, we can put in everything we do is commercial, and it's meant for 24/7 operation. So we're not going to go below that. But so much of what we do is building in a bill of materials and price it out accordingly. We're not a standard company. We're not a catalog house. So in many cases, if maybe they need an Intel platform, but they need more built-in memory, or they need a better BrightSign board, or they just need a very simplistic Android, a built-in. The pricing does matter as you go into different components. One application today, we just took out PoE from one of our smaller displays that we kind of deem PoE standard in most of our 21-inch and below. But the customer needed to save $25, and we did everything we could to help them save $25 to get a project over the finish line. So there is a difference from Android to maybe the highest end BrightSign platform. It's usually not significant, and usually it's just a discussing of what the customer is trying to accomplish and how long they expect those displays to be in service.
Yeah, I would guess, and again, guessing is always guessing. It's more related to the history or to whatever people are used to work, and then they're gonna go, A or B or that direction or this direction.
Yeah, a lot of times it's interactivity, right? If they're going to look at a touch screen or they're going to require some sensors, maybe they're going to require a lift and learn. We work really closely with our friends at Nextmosphere. Those applications, viewers generally try to lean to a better operating system that can help them downstream, that can help them down the road. Because if they're looking at interactivity or motion sensors or lift and learn, they're probably already on the side of sophistication. But we're trying to, if we're going to provide any cost savings, we may not want to discount the operating system they're trying to use. We may be able to extract something else in the bill of materials to get them down to that price point they desire.
Well, you mentioned something that I had on my list of things or ideas to talk about, which is interactivity. And from what we have talked before, I understand you guys are very, very strong in retail, correct? And I want to talk more about retail. I think there's a lot going on in retail. But starting with interactivity, how do you see interactivity playing a role on the experience on building? Well, Nextmosphere is great. We support. It's fully compatible with OnSign as well. And I know Nextmosphere has this tight connection with BrightSign, which means that they also work great with you guys. But how do you see the experiential retail, or even, I don't know if you have this answer from the top of your head, what is the percentage of that really happen outside? Is this something that is only more flagship little thing, or is this something that it's really deployed at scale on large projects?
I wouldn't normally know these things off the top of my head, but I just prepared for a board meeting this week. So I had a lot of, I like to call them our sales fun stats. Exactly 50% of what we do at Bluefin is a touch screen versus non-touch. It's just random that it almost was exactly the same as far as our revenue is concerned. Touchscreens are big in retail and QSR and grocery. There is a sales lift that is a known fact in the industry when there is some element of interactivity at retail. And that could be touch capable, it could be sensors, it could be, there's a variety of different, things that it's in self-service kiosks, obviously. There's motion activated displays. We're rolling out with a retailer right now where they're using non-touch screens on the end cap, but there are sensors that trigger a different piece of content to play when somebody is engaging with the screen. So those are, and especially with dwell time, those are popular applications. We mentioned Nextmosphere and what they're doing with LiDAR and their motion sensors, and they have a lot of lift and learn applications. There is definitely a sales impact when it comes to that at retail. Retail is our largest vertical. We are doing more and more with hospitality and transportation and with stadiums and corporate communications and a variety of other vertical markets that museums has always been big for Bluefin. We do a lot of frameless displays that go into like these fixtured housings, touch and non-touch, but with a built-in operating system. So it's always been a big vertical for us, but interactivity is definitely catching on because people want that experiential side of it in retail, and that's definitely a growing business.
I have a question that has twofold, actually. What is your favorite interactivity setting or favorite sensor? And number two, one thing that we are crazy about at OnSign is reliability, because in many ways interactivity is really cool and some sensors are very nice, but they are not as reliable as something else. Or what would you choose? I don't know. I think you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, some things are crazy and cool, but you need to have like a a hand over that to make sure that that will work on any environment?
Yeah, generally when you're talking to somebody, a CEO that has a very sales background, what I like the most is what produces the most revenue. So what comes to my mind is some of those motion activated sensors for my display to trigger, where we have the sensor that triggers something because it actually is showing a sales lift. It is in an RMN, retail media network application, and it is selling, right? It is showing a sales lift, so the customer happens to continue to buy more and more, and they're taking it on to a different level. And now they're integrating dwell time and it triggering another piece of content because now they have somebody's interest, and now they want to take it to another level. So those are always the easy ones for me because they're truly triggering a growth in revenue. Um, we do a lot of work, and a lot of times it is with BrightSign and Nextmosphere at luxury retail. Some of those are the cool factor and the wow factor. We do a lot of work with museums that are really, really cool too, and integrating maybe a Nextmosphere LiDAR sensors. And those are great. They're just going to be for specific experiential needs. They don't scale as fast as the retail media network stuff does, but they are really cool wow factors. My marketing director loves them because she's able to get case studies out of it. The customers are thrilled with it because it does create a very unique experience. And we do have the ability to do that at Bluefin because we do a lot of customization that can create that experience.
Um, I want to talk about retail, but I think retail, and I'm going to be very specific, retail media, which is a big thing. But well, we can go into retail media. What is your take today on retail media? I mean, how do you see it? And my question is even bigger because I think that we have retail media is big, and it's something that we all will grow on it. I think it's a path where we at some point we're going to have something very evolved where we're going to have real data integrated, and there are projects already doing that. We have projects that are already doing that, and we know exactly who is in front of the screen, how many people have impact, how many ads do we need to throw so that we get a conversion. But I think the majority of the projects with retail media are still in infancy, or they call retail media, but by the end of the day, it's nothing more than digital signage. Where do you think we are at? What is the space that you need? What are the steps you think we are still pending to do? How do you see this space?
Well, I think it's the space that we all look at that has the biggest potential, but it's still evolving. Pretty much those that know me, I'm a sports analogy person, and I'm always equating something to the sports analogies. But I think we're still in the early innings with retail media. I think it's got a long ways to go, but we're seeing a ton of momentum, and that momentum's in grocery, it's in pharmacy, it's in QSR, it's in all sorts of retail and luxury retail too. The audience targeting, the content automation, there is a lot there, and that ties into AI and all those other fun buzzwords. But what I love about it is we're enabling the hardware layer of it, right? So when we're seeing it, we're flexible or cost efficient. And now that's a big thing. Ricardo, you kind of hit it on the head. Somebody's got to pay for it, right? Somebody's got to. So now it's a balance between the marketing departments of some of these big box retailers and the operations group, because operations also doesn't want to give up shelf space. So there is a little bit, and somebody's got to pay for it. The beauty of it, the retailers love it because a lot of times it's where they start the clock on making money. But there is a lot of trade-offs, and these big organizations have to work together. What does the marketing department want to see as far as some of these retail media networks? What does operations want to see? How much shelf space are they willing to give away? And it's really, as I always like to say to my sales team, it's like, you just got to know your audience, who you're talking to, who's buttering their bread, because they may actually be getting pushback in one way from a marketing group or an operations group when they're just trying to establish a retail media network.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting inflection points is, selling is never easy, and it's harder and harder for retailers on the physical space. And my take, or the take that we have seen through the retail media projects, is this is becoming a real revenue making stream for retailers. So it's not just about, open ads. It's you're selling more, you are selling the space. There's this feedback loop because you're selling more product as well. So it's a win-win thing. The point that I still feel that there are some steps, or many steps, to be, implemented, is this idea of really cross-relating data. So content is relevant, content is presented at the right place, right people, and so we can get similar conversions or tracking systems to what we have online, and we are going
I
that direction.
completely agree. I mean, there's a lot of folks that are still trying to figure out how to connect those dots through, whether it's us and is the vendors of the technology, it's the managed service providers that are in there and they're selling it. It's the brands and the retailers trying to all figure out how to connect the dots. Like, what do they do with the data that's given to them? How do they process that? How do they digest that? And how does that help them make decisions? So we see a ton of potential. We're finding a lot of folks that want to go with large screens, which we do as well. Bluefin does, what's on our production line right now is 86-inch displays. People don't know us for that. But we also, we're doing some larger displays and end caps. And then sometimes they go and we start with a larger display, or we start with a custom display that requires some more customized content to fit in those resolutions. And then it goes to more of 16:9 because it's easier to produce more content, captivating content. Then it starts getting smaller and smaller because the brands and the retailers are not talking to the operations the departments about some of that shelf space. So luckily for us, we have a solution for every aspect of it. But one of the things that we are seeing a tremendous amount of potential for right now is some smaller fixtures being used at end caps, and that we could support a lot of that. And then obviously keeping that dynamic content so it never tires on the audience.
I think that it's an interesting way to talk more. And this is, I think, what you guys have been doing very well is the hardware, your product. I think it will be interesting, especially, to share with people. I mean, you guys have some great products, some great form factors, some unique form factors, and how can Bluefin help people in retail, or what do you offer that feeds retail in a very special way that nobody else is doing out there, or that you do so much better? And I know you guys.
Yeah, one of the things I would add to that is we try to transition customers away from the what's good enough and let their imagination wander. Our website we did productize it a little bit. It makes it easier, especially on the vertical markets that aren't going to be needing hundreds or thousands, where the custom message works much better. That's why retail is such a great fit for us, because we could truly customize to what somebody has in their mind. But, go into a museum and they need a special production run for 8, I'd probably rather at least get them into something that's tailored a little bit more to my core inventory. My inventory sits in Georgia for the US and Amsterdam for Europe, but it sits about 100 yards away from me. We're probably going to give them more of our core inventory, and then we still have the ability to swap out any operating system and tailor that portion of it that's going to work really well with their CMS, that's going to really work well with what they've already deployed. And we can do all that light assembly here in Georgia or in Amsterdam, or obviously at our factory. So the ability to manufacture commercial grade displays with their choice of a built-in OS, but also the ability to tailor those displays to their specific needs, really goes a long way. I mean, we just won a large project just because we could do white. And the customer just didn't even want to ask, because they're like, no displays come in white. We don't even want to ask. But they happen to know us better, and they're like, what's the price difference if we just go with white? And we're like, there is no price difference. We're manufacturing them anyway. We just powder coat them in white versus the black that we are going to from our metal, right? So those are easy lifts. Now, when we manufacture, or we have our own SMT lines to produce our own boards. If they want a complete board change, that's a little bit more custom. It's something that's still in our wheelhouse, but Anything that's cosmetic, that's super simple. We love doing that stuff.
What about form factors? I remember at Infocom, it's been a month or so from now. You had like the round displays, or how do you see that? Is that really? I believe that is way more expensive, but I think there's a place in the market for that. Any thoughts around?
I would say that
format?
we won some product awards around it at Infocom. The circles and squares are definitely hot because they're eye catching. They're not 16:9 where people are used to looking at that on their all the time, right? It's all the time. It's at your house. It's everything that you're looking at. So we've had a lot of success in stretch. Stretch does replace static in many areas. We cut a lot of LCD, so we're really good at that. Our master technicians and at our factory make sure we do a good job that is all about quality. You don't want lines. The squares and the circles are definitely gaining a lot of interest and a lot of attention, and we do have the ability to make those in touch or non-touch and put any operating system in. They're not as expensive as you would think either, because in most cases we're trying to work with our supply chain on who already has those glass. Everyone goes and buys glass from just a few suppliers. So if they have that glass in its running and they're doing a lot of production, it'll surprise you what kind of price points we can get to. It looks super special, but if we can get them from our suppliers and then we can do our magic with the metal, the operating system, producing our own boards, the touch, they come out to be pretty cost effective compared to a standard 16:9 display.
And well, we never discussed. I mean, we questions that we will be making here. So I have a question, and I don't know if this is a good of a question. What about warranty? How warranty works for
a lot of times we're following the warranty of the media player that we put into the display. That's what we've been doing for a while.
Oh, really?
Just generally, again, it goes to that lowest common denominator. Some of the media player companies are coming out with longer extended times. We extend out our warranties. Again, it goes back to the application, what we're doing, who we're working with. So we extend our warranties out. Our standard has been 1 year in the US and 2 years internationally, but that's changing. We're offering a lot of 3-year warranties as part of many of our projects. Some of them can even extend beyond that. We have gotten into a lot more outdoor. We did show, I think, 4 different sizes of outdoor at Infocom. Outdoor is a little different because you just don't know, and it's hard to predict the circumstances. Where Bruno is, he said he's wearing sweatshirts and jackets today, and in Atlanta today it's probably going to be closer to 100, right? So it really depends on the conditions, but we'll work with our customers to do what we think is the right thing for the longevity of their project.
Cool. Bruno, your question.
That's great. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that warranty is a great thing, and especially partnering with well-trusted companies like Bluefin when picking the hardware is a great thing when you're developing a project for digital signage, because you know how much it costs, to send people out on the field to solve an issue with the hardware, and that's why we're very glad to have partners like Bluefin, and yeah.
Well, Bruno, the partner ecosystem, like I said earlier, has been so vital to the importance of what we've done here, and I actually attribute a lot of that to our growth. Getting folks like you guys that are operating across our offering for all of our OSs, that are implementing control elements. We recommend CMS partners often because it just creates a better experience with our end customers, and the folks. Then we partner closer, and we can get things. We can ultimately get a better finished product via what you guys are doing with control, what you're doing with your CMS and your user interface, and then what we can offer from a reliable piece of hardware with a powerful operating system. That's, I think, where the future is going, and that's what's led to a tremendous amount of Bluefin growth.
I often, whenever we're having discussions, projects, kind of sales process, there's always a specific point that we talk about, of course, the hardware choice is also always, pretty much always a network, a customer choice. But something that I often say is be very careful. I mean, the software you can change it anytime, but once you buy the hardware, it's going to be with you for years. So be very mindful and don't save money there. And look how important this is. We don't make any money on hardware. If I'm asking you to spend money on hardware and not on us, because this is crazily important, you know, and something that I often see is don't have a short view about or sort. I mean, don't downplay the hardware importance because again, it's not about what you're running today. It's what maybe it's going to be coming up in a couple of years or 3 years down the road, and you still want that to be running on your screens. You know, I don't know what HTML, whatever it's going to be coming, what kind of format, crazy things, new sensors or snappy interactivity that, you know, somebody down or up in the marketing department will come up with this idea, but it's going to be very bad if you say, oh yeah, if we had chosen this other hardware, we could do that because we saved $10, whatever. We can't.
Yeah, future proofing the hardware is definitely important because that's why we want to go to these commercial operating systems that provide a lot of headroom because we may know what you're doing in August of 2025 with your deployment, but you may not even know what you're going to do in August of 2029 with that. And no person from a return wants to say, sorry, that hardware we purchased in August of 2025 is now out of date. I can't do what I want to do with AI or I can't do what I want to do with this piece of content because it chokes up the built-in player, right? The last thing we want you to do 4 years down the road is having to plug in an external player. Now we have the ability to do that through FlexOS with an HDMI override, but we'd rather give you a built-in player that has that headroom. So whatever you guys throw at it in 4 years from now, it can handle. So you don't need to roll a truck. You don't need to replace a display. You don't need to add a piece of a media player. You guys can do all of that stuff remotely. It just saves everyone money, causes a much better experience, and nobody gets beat up of buying hardware that's going to be out of date in a few years.
And even the software that's within the hardware, what I mean is long-term support on the operating system. Again, we talked about BrightSign, about Android and Chrome. We work with all of them. But something that is very tough, I would say, especially on Android, is that every day, every device has a kind of a different operating system, unless you're going with a professional solution. Of course, there are professional, you guys have professional solutions around Android. So this is not just about the hardware reliability, you know, how long it's going to last, but you have something that will have firmware support for, you know, a long time because something that is a big headache is if you're not using a professional solution, you go out there and buy, let's be simple here, you buy Amazon something, and then you buy a week from now the same product, it comes with a different whatever. I mean, and how, I mean, what I say to people is you have, you know, a network with 1,000, 5,000 screens. If you have each one of the screens on a different OS version, it's like having 5,000 different screens because, I mean, it's 5,000 different things. And then once you have a problem, it's not one problem, it's 5,000 different problems. So having homogeneous, well-supported, long-term supported hardware operating system, and of course, the CMS is constantly updating because we're online. That is our thing. But you know, if the hardware is not there, if the OS is not there, there's nothing we can do.
And you know, that's why I think working with you guys is great. It's the flexibility, it's the agility that we can create. You always want to make sure you have some level of enterprise level security too, right? Everything we're doing is for the commercial applications. We're unlike some other display manufacturers that are in our industry that have a big consumer world and they sell their products at these big box stores. We are everything that we do is commercial, so we want to make sure that it's meant to operate 24/7. The other thing that we do that a lot of others don't is we'll keep the design of that build for the life of that project. As long as we can get access to that LCD glass, we can make that product because we're the manufacturer. So we're making some product for folks that when we initially deployed 5 years ago, we're making the screens that look exactly like those screens from 5 years ago. We didn't change the mounting point. We didn't change where the HDMI is. We didn't, and we're going to give that same level of that they expect when they bought it from us, and it matches the rest of the products in their project. So there's a big thing to be said about that, because if we were operating on a consumer chassis, it changes often, but we don't do anything from a consumer level. And that flexibility, that agility is great when you're actually manufacturing, but some of those customers want what they originally deployed, and they want that over a long scale, and we have the ability to do that.
Awesome. I mean, yeah, I think that, well, Frank, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for everything. I know, Ricardo, do you have any other question?
I don't know, maybe
Frank.
Frank, do you have any thoughts, closing
Yeah.
thoughts, messages?
I always have a thought. I don't even need to know the question. I always have an answer. But I think, again, it would go back to the partner ecosystem. We go back to so much of what we're going through right now. I think the future of digital signage is obviously, it's going to be smarter, it's going to be faster, it's going to be more integrated. But I think it's the partnerships, like the folks that we're dealing with on a regular basis, understanding what you're coming up with next, how we can help support that, how we can make the whole ecosystem a little bit more integrated. I think that's going to be how digital signage is going to grow, and it's going to make the end customers more confident as well, that they know that there's partnerships that exist out there that have worked, and they've paid dividends.
I think this is a great way to close, because the two words you mentioned, ecosystem and partnerships, are key, because by the end of the day, and problems happen. I mean, I say it's not a problem to have a problem, it's how you solve, how you address, how you overcome, how you make it better. That is the difference, between, good and bad. And the idea of having this ecosystems and partnerships, I think it's key, because whenever somebody or a customer asks, hey, can I do this, or how, or this is not the way I thought, how can you help me? It's not a problem about OnSign or Bluefin. It's he turns to you, to us, and we together provide him a solution, because it's important for the customer to have these faces, and I would say even the phone numbers of the companies that are down the line, because many people buy things that don't even know where this is coming from. And if you have an issue, you're on your own. I mean, it's good luck, best of luck. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you got to make sure you're living in the flexible market, but that can execute, but that support element of it is so critical for these end users to trust that the partners that they chose are going to be able to work together, service any and support their needs long term. And I think that's what we're building between OnSign and Bluefin. I'm happy about that, and definitely appreciate you guys having me.
We're super happy, and I mean, it's nice. You guys are growing. We're growing. We are strongly working towards retail, as you mentioned. So I think there's a lot to work there. I don't know. So thank you, Frank. It was nice that we were very close by at Infocom, so that was cool, because we got closer together. And we're going to be at ISC. There's still.
Oh, I think the first time we actually met in person was in Mexico City, and part of the Digital Signage Federation. But there's going to be many opportunities too, and if there's anything I could do to help support this and both companies' growth, please always reach out.
Bruno, thank you for arranging. Frank, thank you for being with us. And so thank you. Just a lot of thank you.
Absolutely.